Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 8th of October 2024 and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of our show. We'll begin with the Foreign Office statement that calls on Afghanistan or the Afghan interim government to rein in all the terrorist groups that have been waging war against Pakistan or might be trying to wage war against other regional countries and global players as well. This was said by the Foreign Office spokesperson Mumtaz Zahra Baloch recently, but this is nothing new when it comes to the the harboring of terrorist elements within the Afghan soil. Pakistan has time and again highlighted it, requested the Afghan interim authorities to rein in these outfits, but to no avail. Unfortunately, all of these requests have fallen on deaf ears. Why is that? So we have been highlighting this issue many a times, but I think we need to highlight it as much as often as possible because the world needs to know what the reality of such issues is. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story concerns 366 days of the Gaza war, the Gaza conflict, the Israel-Palestine conflict, and now the Israel-Lebanon conflict, the Israel-Yemen conflict, and the Israel-Syria conflict. This has been going on for far too long, and with the repercussions that are going to slowly and steadily engulf not only the Middle East but the world as well. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Nobel Prize in Physics that has been announced today. During the course of the week will be the Nobel prizes in different categories are going to be announced, and today was no exception. Today was physics that has been won by John Hopfield and Jeffrey Hinton for the work on artificial neural networks. Finally, we are going to talk about actor Mazharali. If you watched PTV plays in the 80s and the 90s, he was a leading figure in those PTV plays as well. He has unfortunately passed away after a protracted illness. He was here in Karachi, normally living in the US. He was here since the last couple of months, had lost his son in a car accident some time back, and since then his health had been destabilizing. Our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Mazhar Ali. Let's begin with our stories, and let's begin with Pakistan, Afghanistan, the tangent of terrorism that Afghanistan is harboring within its soil and how it is affecting the region. Maybe not Afghanistan, but at least the region, especially Pakistan. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Ghulamzadeh. He's the Director of Research of PICSS in Islamabad. Thank you very much, Ghulamzadeh, to have joined us. And of course, online, we'll be joined by AVM retired Ijaz Malik Saab. He's a Senior Analyst as well. Oh, he's here. Ijaz Saab, welcome to our show. Let's begin with Ghulamzadeh Saab. Ghulamzadeh Saab, Pakistan has yesterday, in a media brief by the Foreign Office spokesperson, urged the Taliban again to focus on fighting the terrorist groups that continue to threaten the security of Afghanistan as well as its neighbors. Why, in your point of view, is there a reluctance to fight this fitna that continues to act with impunity inside Afghanistan and crosses the borders without any issue and then causes havoc in countries such as Pakistan and threatens the security of the entire region? Because today it could be Pakistan, tomorrow it could be any other country. In your point of view also, should Pakistan offer counter-terrorism cooperation to Afghanistan if it is ready to accept that cooperation and if it cannot control these terrorist groups? What's your take on that?
Thank you very much for the invitation once again. Actually, Afghan Taliban, since coming to power in 2021 and since then 3 years have passed, Pakistan have been consistently requesting Afghan government to actually take action against TTP and other militant groups. These are not demands of only Pakistan, but also the regional countries as well, asking the similar questions to Afghan government as well. So actually the Afghan government is not paying attention to not only Pakistani demands, but also the other regional countries' demands as well. Actually, there are more than one militant groups operating in Afghanistan.
Yes.
There are many militant groups which are operating in Afghanistan. Actually, there are three major categories of militant groups which are actually working in Afghanistan, and they are either creating problem for Afghanistan or the regional countries. First category is the pro-Taliban militant groups. The second category is anti-Taliban militant groups, and the third category is the neutral groups. The first category, the pro-Taliban groups, are those groups which were actually fighting along the Taliban with the US and NATO forces prior to 2021. And once the government changed in Kabul, these groups actually who were previously part and parcel of the Taliban insurgency in Afghanistan actually sided with the Taliban, and then they actually helped Taliban in administrative and other affairs and establishing their government in Afghanistan. After that, what happened actually is the Afghan government has not the capacity, number one, and number two, has not the intent to actually target those
I think
groups.
more than the capacity, it's the intent.
Yes, intent is very much there. The lack of intent is very much there. This is the first reason. Secondly, capacity issue is there. I will be coming again on this aspect as well. Then there are second category is the pro and the anti-Taliban groups which are operating in Afghanistan.
ISIS.
Yes, ISKP and other groups, for example, NRF, and these are basically not the militant groups, but the anti-Taliban groups, anti-Taliban regime groups, which are actually fighting for the overturning the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. But those groups are being dealt with very seriously by the Taliban, but not the pro-Taliban groups. Pro-Taliban groups are given shelter, protection, free movement in Afghanistan, and they are working, they are living under the shadow of Afghan intelligence, and they are given free hand. Whatever they do, they want to do, they can do it in Afghanistan. And these groups, TTP is the major group, as you have seen the reports from UNSC, as well as the other independent groups where it has mentioned that TTP is one of the largest militant groups which is basically operating in Afghanistan, which is basically out-focused in the way that it is focusing on Pakistan. There are other groups, for example, Turkestan Islamic Party, which is China-focused. Then you have Ansarullah, which is basically Central Asian focused. And there is many other groups which are actually based in Afghanistan but targeting some other countries. So Taliban are not serious in taking action against those groups, number one. Number two, so far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan has been constantly asking to hand over TTP leadership to Pakistan or take action against TTP, and Pakistan has shared actionable intelligence with them. There is not just diplomatic engagement in a way that you say that no specific information was shared. No, Pakistan has shared specific information and asked to act, but the Taliban haven't acted on those intelligence and the information. This is my take on it.
All right, all right. AVM Saab, spokesperson Mumtaz Baloch also believes that it is, she says that Pakistan believes that it is important for both the sides, that is the Pakistani side and the Afghan side, to take confidence building measures that contribute to the enhancement of trade and mutually beneficial cooperation. But the question here is Afghanistan or the Afghan interim government ready to take such measures?
I don't think so. If they were ready, probably there was no reason for the Foreign Office spokesperson to re-emphasize this requirement. Because ever since Taliban have taken the interim government in Kabul, while they have been talking and promising the world as well as Pakistan in particular that they would not allow their soil to be used against any regional country. But practically, they haven't demonstrated any, traces, I would say, even traces of intent. More than capacity can be built, capacity can be shared with Pakistan, by Pakistan, but they have to show intent. But unfortunately, not only that they have harbored those terrorist groups in Afghanistan, but they have given them a tacit understanding that they can do whatever they want across the international border, for which they do not have any respect as far as the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan is concerned. This particular issue of border, it's as old as Pakistan independence, and this is one issue on which almost all Afghans, they have their consensus that they do not respect and regard the border. So this is one issue that they think that Taliban can help them, keep some vibrancy in this, public sentiment, as well as their kind of continued policy towards Pakistan. And secondly, they want to achieve their objectives instead of having a collaboration or cooperation with Pakistan, they want to coerce Pakistan. With this threatening posture, they want Pakistan to cede them some space, which should have been other way around.
All right. Gulzar Sahab, I'd like to understand also now the US perspective and all that. And there are some developments that have happened, and I'd like your point of view on that. The US State Department announces a significant restructuring of its diplomatic strategy towards Afghanistan. There are 3 senior officials that have now been appointed in the place of Thomas West, who was, of course, the outgoing US Special Representative for Afghanistan. Now there are 3 people, Karen Dacker, Bina Amiri, and Ambassador Perma Sharim, who's a career diplomat as well. In your point of view, is this change, because there are a lot of question marks that emanate as to why this change happened. Some say it is to downgrade the US influence on Afghanistan or the US interest in Afghanistan. Others say that it is indicative of the growth of cross-border terrorism from groups such as TTP as a significant concern for Washington because it wants to seek diplomatic engagement with security challenges in the region. What's your take on that?
Yes, actually,
who do you believe? I mean, which version do you believe?
The first problem is the non-recognition of Taliban government, and the reason is known to the world. First of all, the militant groups operating from Afghan soil are a major concern for the region as well as the world. Number 2, the human rights and women rights, and then the forming of inclusive government. These are the 3 major demands that the world asked Afghanistan to do that. But actually, Afghan Taliban are actually not heeding to any advice from the regional countries or the world in terms of these three preconditions that are required to actually recognize Taliban government. So what is happening that the US actually does not have its diplomatic presence in Afghanistan. So what it was doing, that it was controlling the situation or dealing with the Afghan Taliban through its Qatar office. But the only one representative wasn't enough to actually deal with all and so many big issues, including terrorism. So what actually the US did, it appointed 3 different people on three different slots for 3 different,
aspects
and the mandate to work on. So what actually US is doing is, US is definitely concerned about the militant groups. ISKP threat is there, and the TTP is almost always a major threat, not only for Pakistan but the region and the global peace. What I believe is that the US is trying to actually control the situation. If you just recall that US IP report has highlighted these issues, and that was
in grave detail.
Yes, in great details, and it was basically highlighted that the US cannot actually ignore the situation in Afghanistan and what's happening over there. So what actually US is doing is trying to deal with Afghan Taliban through 3 different aspects, appointing 3 different point persons.
But do you feel this is a strategy that is going to work in the long run?
It depends.
Compared to Thomas West, for example.
Yes, it depends. But I believe that largely it will depend on Afghan Taliban, what they are doing, instead of what the US is doing. It will be more on, the onus will be on the Afghan Taliban instead of the world and the larger international community. What the US and the other West and the regional countries can do is to put pressure on Afghan Taliban to actually pay attention to these basic and fundamental issues that need to be addressed in Afghanistan.
But somehow they are not understanding.
Yes,
I wonder why. AVM Saab, a joint statement was taken out after a multilateral level meeting, rather a ministerial level meeting that was held on the sidelines of the UNGA in September, that was attended by the quadrilateral group that comprises Pakistan, China, Iran and Russia, that has called for the Taliban's government in Afghanistan to take visible and verifiable actions to dismantle terrorist groups operating from Afghan soil. Do you think that the Afghan interim government will pay heed to such a joint statement that was made by 4 countries that are important in the region, or do you feel it will be business as usual as it has been doing in the past?
Ideally, I would say they should respond, because for Pakistan alone, they haven't shown any flexibility. But China, who is also one of the effectors, obviously, from the threat of terrorism emanating out of Afghanistan soil, China has a stake in Afghanistan. China is helping them in development. There's a lot of developmental projects, and they probably, if at all they are, showing a cold shoulder to Pakistan's proposals, they should, somehow reconsider their orientation as far as the Chinese engagement is concerned, because it means a lot for the people of Afghanistan what Chinese projects are doing there in terms of infrastructure and economic development.
All right. I'll ask the same question to you, Gulzar. The fact is that this quadrilateral group also talks about the security challenges that exist because of the presence of all of these outfits within the Afghan territory. And our defense minister also talked on the same. And he said we've said time and again on various intervals, we've requested the Afghan interim government to do the needful, but that hasn't been done. But my question is, why hasn't the Afghan interim government responded in kind to Pakistan's repeated requests of us to dismantle terrorism?
So far, Afghan Taliban believe that we can actually deal with Pakistan without accepting or paying attention to Pakistan demands of taking action against TTP.
Why?
They believe that, number one, that situation in Afghanistan is so fragile that Pakistan will be worried about if the situation goes worse. It will be a problem for Pakistan in terms of refugees, in terms of so many other problems. This is what they understand. Secondly, they actually believe that not the regional countries and the international community would not pay attention to what Pakistan is saying to them to ask Afghan Taliban to take action against these groups, number one. Number three, actually, what you said, that the quadrilateral group is actually made up of Pakistan, China, Iran and Russia. These are the regional countries which are actually pushing Taliban to take action, and not only the action but verifiable action and immediate action in terms of taking action against all these militant groups. And if you recall that quadrilateral group actually discussed all the militant groups and mentioned in the joint statement.
True.
Similarly, the Moscow format meeting held in Russia also discussed the similar thing, and this meeting was attended by 9 countries of this region. It means there is a regional consensus in terms of what
and
the
a
Taliban
regional
need to do.
concern about
Yes.
what the Afghan interim government needs to do. But again, the question comes, I mean, we can discuss as much as we want, but the fact is at the end of the day, the Afghan interim government is doing whatever it wants, and for the moment, these statements, these requests, these pledges are not being heard properly as they should.
Yes, for now the Taliban are not paying attention to these, but they will have to. Not only the regional countries but also the international community, for their own reasons, for their own stability and for their own survival. Because Afghanistan is facing humanitarian crisis, Afghanistan is facing so many economic and other crises. If it is isolated from the world, which is at now, Afghanistan is facing some sort of at least diplomatic isolation. But if the Taliban are not going to pay attention to the world, what will happen? That the world will not pay attention to what's happening in Afghanistan, and it will complicate the situation in Afghanistan. Afghanistan will become increasingly ungovernable for Afghan Taliban as well, and these militant groups, which are actually currently allied to the Afghan Taliban, will be creating more problems for Taliban themselves.
But shouldn't they, I mean, I think they need to realize this before it's way too late and things move above and beyond their control. Let's see what happens. AVM Saab, last question to you, and that concerns counter-terrorism measures. Do you feel, for example, the countries that make the quadrilateral group could evolve a joint counter-terrorism strategy, could also ask the Afghan interim government that if they do not have the capacity, as Gulzar Sahab has pointed out, maybe they could help them as far as capacity building is concerned, and do the necessary to thwart out such elements from within Afghanistan? Or is it that Afghanistan is really not interested?
To my mind, I think this is more is the part of intent rather than capacity building. Capacity building, even to some extent, these 4 countries that have held meeting on the sidelines of UN General Assembly, they can offer some kind of capacity building, and at least on their part, they can. Human is a very important part of any action against such menace. So at least human intelligence can be provided by Afghan government, and the element part, the electronic intelligence, that can be shared or provided by even Pakistan.
Thank you very much, AVM Ijaz, Malik Saab, Senior Analyst, and thank you very much, Gulzar Saab, Director of Research, PICSS in Islamabad, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this. This is an ongoing issue, and I don't think this is coming to an end anytime soon. And I feel that maybe a drastic pressure or other tactics need to be taken by the powers that be, especially in the West, in order to move towards some kind of change, because I don't see any change happening otherwise. Yes. Thank you very much again to have joined us. We'll go to a short break and then we'll be back with our second segment. Welcome back, and now to our two news items. The first concerns the Nobel Prize in Physics that has been won by John Hopfield and Jeffrey Hinton for their work on artificial neural networks. Now, the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has decided to award this 2024 Nobel Physics Prize to these two for foundational discoveries and inventions that enable machine learning with artificial neural networks. Congratulations to the both of them. Finally, we end on a very sad news, and that is, of course, the demise of our renowned actor from the 80s and 90s, Mazharali, who passed away in Karachi after a protracted illness. He was an engineer by profession and the grandson of Baba Zain Shah Taji Ahmad Shah. He was also noted in many circles for his poetry. He was one of the most celebrated actors as far as Pakistan television is concerned. His notable TV series on Pakistan television include Afshan Shaheen, Kali Dimak, Kanch Ki Gudiya, and many others. He was, since the last couple of years, living in the US, but had returned to Pakistan since the last couple of months and was living with his sister and brother. He was admitted to the hospital due to ill health and unfortunately passed away today after this protracted illness. Many of our leaders have also paid their eulogy to Mazharali, including the Chief Minister Sayyid Murad Ali Shah, who has expressed grief and sorrow over the demise of Mazharali. And he said that the services of late Mazharali for television would always be remembered. Our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Mazharali as well. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news items and segments appearing to you, us and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.